Well, Suncoast, how are we doing this morning? Thank you all so much for joining us on our 25th anniversary. Larry specifically asked for that song, and it was written well before any of us on stage were born. So I hope we did it justice, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you again for being here. And I want to hear just from a round of applause, who do you think solo was better? We had Lee on guitar. Let me hear. We had, oh, Evan left the stage already. What are those things called? A xylophone? Bells? Evan? Or Chase's tambourine solo? All right, Chase, you won this one again. Good job. All right, well, thanks again. We're going to sing a couple more songs. You guys ready? You guys hyped? I don't think you are hyped. Everyone, go back out there and get some coffee right now and then come back in. We'll wait. I'm just joking. But let's try that again. You guys ready? All right, let's do it.
has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for he has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for God has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for he has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for our God has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for he has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for our God has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for he has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for our God has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for he has overcome all the world in its troubles. Take heart, for our God has overcome all our heartache, all our pain. God, our healer, he has overcome. God, our refuge, God, our strength. God is with us. He has overcome. On the road marked independent, I left home to find my way. There my feet had found the rhythm, my worries seemed to fade. Oh, with battered boots and shallow roads, nothing held me still. Just scattered pursuits of myself without you is what I want, still part of your will. I lean into all my wants and wishes. I lean into my thoughts and wildest dreams, holding on to all my heart's desires in this reckless pursuit of me. And every single light cast in shadows seem to read these words I often think, holding my own breath till my heart expires. Is this the place I long to reach? In this reckless pursuit of oh, I lean in. Oh, I lean in. this mess, you saw me here within it. The same road I walked is the road you run to welcome me home again. Maybe the space that I made was to measure your grace. Still it stretches out beyond to every fading heart. In the worlds they part, you shine away home again. And as your tears fall and my fears fail, your love still stands to hold. And every doubt weighed against love's embrace has broken, lean into hope. And as your love lives to carry on, this light will shine through every door to reach the ones who reach beyond and learn to lean into
If y'all have been in Suncoast for a while, you'll know this one. It's a song called With Everything. I hope you guys can sing it out of this.
Open our eyes to see the things that make your heart cry. To be the church that you would desire. Your light to be seen. Break down our pride and all the walls we built up inside. Our earthly crowns and all our desires, we lay at your feet. So let hope arise, the darkness tremble in your holy light. In every hour sing Jesus our God, great and mighty to be praised. God of all days, glorious in all of your ways. Oh, the majesty and wonder and grace in the light of your name. Let hope, so let hope rise. The darkness tremble in your holy light. That every eye will sing Jesus our God, great and mighty to be praised.
This next part says, with everything, I will shout forth your praise. If you're in this room and you feel comfortable, just raise your hands right now. What I like to think of is this is a sign that, God, you know what, I surrender. This is a very vulnerable position. God, I surrender my will to yours. I want to live my life the way you have called me to live. Let's sing this out together. With everything, drums, let me hear you one more time. Thank y'all so much for singing with us.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Good. My name is Ryan Baucom, and if you've been around for a little bit, you may have seen me. I've been hiding in the back with beard and hat, trying not to get recognized. But I just have to say, as the band's leaving, what an amazing group of people to work with. Like they really, and for those that aren't up here this weekend as well, those people as well, you don't understand how important this is to us every weekend. And this is the highlight of my week, being able to come here and play. And you know, I've stopped playing and come back, and stopped playing and come back, stop playing, come back, and now I really, this is the highlight of my week. So thank you so much for having us and for allowing us the chance to do this with you all every weekend. It's so wonderful. A couple of quick things. One, this is our last weekend that we're doing the backpacks out there. So if you didn't bring a backpack, but you did bring your wallet, you can give some money and buy a backpack for a kid in need. We also have a big event coming up for families this coming Friday, and it's where we do all the bounce houses and the kids just have fun and do all that. So don't miss that. That's all in your little handout thing that you guys get. And I just want to preface, so this is the 25th anniversary, right? And I'm 36, so that means that this whole thing started when I was 11 years old. And again, it's just it's been such a pleasure to be here with you all through all that, through all the different things. And yeah, and there's one more thing. So video that's coming up, we were asked, Rita and I were asked to make a video of something, a story of Suncoast. Not a lot of, what to do, but we started wondering, like, what story would we tell? Whose story would we tell? And I was talking to different people on staff and how the church has impacted them and how all of you have been impacted, and just talking to different people. And so we had to choose just one. But hopefully you enjoy it. And thanks again for being here, and thanks for having me. We're so honored to be a part of this whole thing. So thanks.
Okay, I think you're out. I think you're good. And if not, we'll just Photoshop it.
So start by telling me who you are.
My name is Larry Baucom, and I am one of 9 kids. Grew up in Nashville. At one point, there was 8 kids living in a 2-bedroom house with an outhouse, in the city of Nashville. Very poor. Parents both worked at night. My dad was a railroad car mechanic. My mother worked for a book bindery company. I have a sister 12 years older, so the siblings took care of the younger kids. Dean, Dennis, Sherry, Jimmy, Donna, Larry, Sandy, Philip, Ben. Went to Turner Elementary School, the same school where my grandmother attended school, my mother attended school, and all my previous siblings. I was in elementary through the 8th grade and graduated from 8th grade with a class ring, believe it or not, because in that environment, some people only went to 8th grade. At one point, we had 200 hogs. We had cows and chickens and horses. I had a couple of horses, and I hauled hay and put up fence for my brother for $1 an hour. My first car I got when I was 12 years old, 1956 Chevy for $60. I was only allowed to drive on the dirt roads, but there was 100 miles of dirt roads. But still, church was part of our life always. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and invariably, that was just the norm, church. Throughout high school, though, I carried my Bible. I really was affected in some measure by the Jesus movement, the Jesus revolution. And I had hair down on my shoulders and kind of a scrawny kid. And I found my identity in the church community. We'd have these revival meetings that would last till midnight. Back then, yes, oh, you're just a Jesus freak, but you'd take pride in being a Jesus freak. When I went to college, I went back to Nashville to this Trevecca University, which is a Nazarene college. And I went there because I felt called me to go into ministry. During the time of being at college, in my second year, I met Becky, and she come from a different style of family. Her family was more balanced, I think, and more established. We dated 6 months, and then I asked her to marry me, and then 6 months later we got married, and I got married at 19 and a half years old. Back then you count halves. When I got through with college, I was so young, 21 years old. I mean, I graduated from high school at 17, graduated from college at 21. Who wants a pastor that's 21 years old? I don't. So that guy has nothing to say to me, he's just a kid. But I went to Lake City, Florida, very rural, very small, 25 people in the church. I found out later they called it a preacher killer. The last 3 guys before me left the ministry. I was only there 20 months, and it was 18 months too long. We lived in a double-wide mobile home on the church property. In the summer, I put a sprinkler on the roof of this trailer just so I could get the temperature down to 84 degrees inside. It was just a culture shock. Even though I lived in the South, I should have been aware of it. I was not prepared for that transition. Laura and Stacy, just little girls. I probably only preached 5 times in my life before I became a pastor. That was good. Hey. Got good hair back here. There's his sister. They just love him to death. Everything's going real well. Tonight after church, after the Christmas service. Can we see you crawl right? That a boy. Very nice.
Rock and roll. Rock and roll. No, I jumped. She was over there.
I mean, what do you like about the chicken pox? Do you like them?
I entered the PhD program at Florida State in January of 1988. Worked full-time, 3 sermons a week, plus had 3 kids. I ran 3 miles a day during that time, regardless. I finished December of 94, actually graduated in spring of 95. So about 7 years.
Larry Mark Dalton, Doctor of Philosophy and Humanities, Middleton Professor, Melbourne Board.
In 1990, I had an invitation to come from Monticello back to Southern Florida. I came down and interviewed and really could not make up my mind. It's a joke. I'd go, this little church, I'd go in the front, they had altars. I'd pray over here and I'd get up and say, I'm not going. I'm staying here. And I'd go back, sit down in the pew, all right, I'll pray again. I'd go up and pray again, and I'm going. I mean, I went like this, back and forth, back and forth. And by that next week, I said, okay, I'm going. So I changed my mind and moved my family from Monticello, where I really enjoyed being a pastor, to Sarasota. The church went from about 125 to 200, 300. We built a nice building there on Fruitville Road and stayed there for a few more years. I wanted to be a fully committed Christ follower, and I wanted to spend 1 hour with God every day, and I did for an entire year. When I finished December 31st, 1997, January 5th, 1998, I resigned. And when I left, I was done. I'm done pastoring. I've been hurt too many times by people. They think they can say whatever and you don't believe, but you do. They may not see it, but you do. I went into sales. I was going to buy into business. I didn't care what I did. But Easter came in 1998, and I began to realize it's not about the money. I lived in a home on a golf course. It's a beautiful house. I drove a nice car. I thought, it's not about money. It's about where my heart is. And then I tell people that afternoon, I really went back in the bedroom and I wept uncontrollably for about 10 or 15 minutes. I just said, God, I don't like my life. And I just was a broken person. And during that time, it seemed like I heard whisper to me, not audibly, but in my spirit, come and partner with me. Let's do a church together. You don't like the way that was, it's possible to start something new. And I think that's the day that Suncoast Community Church was born. I had a vision for what it could be. I could see it. Was it complete? No, but it was enough to where I was willing to put my life on the line for it. We just poured everything into it, and we spent tens of thousands of dollars to get it started, but it was okay. We were all in. And when you're all in, you're all in. want you today, and so do I. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind. And it is my joy to stand before you and celebrate 25 years. It's 25th birthday. It's my birthday. I'm 25 years old. It's not the age, it's the miles. So, but I saw a much younger version. I appreciate Ryan and Rita going to all the efforts in doing the video. And, you know, there's so many other things that could be in there. But if we put them all in there, we'd be here for 25 years. So maybe we just condense as much as we can. But thank you so much for being here. One of the things we have for you today, and I know Ryan mentioned it, but I'll mention it as well. Here's a t-shirt. Today, everybody gets a free shirt. If you don't want a free shirt, don't get it. If you do, it's free. There's no obligation at all. But thank you so much for being here. Just a way to remember who we are, what we're about. Today is a celebration on the life of Suncoast Community Church. 25 years is a significant part of my life, but I want you to know that's the best 25 years of my life. And I want to thank you for sharing in that joy today. But as we begin, I want to start back with, I think, where we should start, and that's with a teaching from the Bible. And we're going to look at Joshua chapter 3. Listen to what it says. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priest carrying the Ark of the Covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage during all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priest who carried the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It piled up in a heap at a great distance away at a town called Adam in the city of Zarethan, while the water flowing down to the sea of the Arabah, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. Now, what I want to point out is the one phrase in there. As soon as their feet touched the water, things began to happen. They were all in. In Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8, we looked at this in the early part of this year. Isaiah goes into the temple and he has a vision. And he experiences this presence of God in the temple. And he hears the voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" And he responds with a Hebrew word. I want to teach you that word. It's hineni. I taught that earlier, but just so I want you to remember, hineni. What does it mean? Hineni means here I am, send me. Or here am I, send me. In Genesis, I began to do a global search. Adam was hiding from God after eating the forbidden fruit. And God in the cool of the evening went to find Adam and he said, "Adam, where are you?" And Adam responds, hineni, here I am. In Genesis, Abraham is called by God, and he responds, hineni. He said, "Go sacrifice your son Isaac on the mountain." And just as he was about to sacrifice Isaac, the voice from heaven says, "Abraham." He says, hineni, stop the knife. In Exodus, Moses was at the burning bush, and he hears his name called from the bush, and he responds, hineni, here I am. And he said, "Go deliver my people from bondage." Samuel, as a boy, was called by God from his sleep and went to Eli a few times. Finally, Eli said, "Go back, and when you hear the voice of God, respond, hineni." Isaiah caught up in the vision. Whom shall I send? Hineni. I'm all in. I'm here. It's me. Hineni says, I have everything and all that I am is available for God. So let me give you one more insight, a little twist. In Isaiah 58, a message from God responding to Isaiah and the people in exile. Up to this point, all the hinenis have been God saying our name and us responding to him. This one's different. The context is a weary people in exile away from home, waiting for years to get back to where their hometown was, hoping that someday, somehow, they could return to Israel. Listen to what the verse says. Isaiah 58:9. Then you will call, and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and God will say, hineni. It's one thing for me to answer God's voice, say, I am in. It's another thing to hear God shout back into my circumstance, I am with you. I'm all into your life as well. 2 weeks ago, I had the privilege of being on vacation with some of my kids and grandkids, and we were whitewater rafting in the Ocoee River. Anybody ever been whitewater rafting? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, you guys are crazy. I've been crazy many times because I love to whitewater raft. But we were in eastern Tennessee, and it was Stacy and Jeff, my 3 grandchildren, Colin, who's 16, Stacy, Peyton's 14, and Brady's 12. It's in eastern Tennessee. What I discovered as we were going down this, we had a guide hitting the big rocks along the way. I mean, the water was really flowing, really moving. And as I went down that river, I began to realize, this is like my life. I mean, my life is like a whitewater adventure. There's never been a day when I've not been all in, and there's never been a day that God has not been all into me. 26 years ago, 1997, like I said in the video, I entered a year of prayer and reflection. I pledged that I would spend an hour a day with God. Most people think that if you spend an hour a day with God for a year, it'd make you a better pastor, right? What happened is the next week I resigned. After an hour a day, things happened in my heart that were changing me. God was beginning to lead me into the whitewater rapids on a journey that would change my life forever. But here's what I want you to hear. I was all in. I was beginning to see. So let me share with you a first point, because I think my journey and your journey are similar. I think some of you understand when I say whitewater rafting, you understand what I mean. You've been in a place where you've had to face obstacles in your life as well. Here's the first thing. You fill in the blank if you'd like. New things can happen when we release our security. I resigned January 5th, 1998, and Easter of 1998, just a few months later, I had a God encounter that changed my direction. I sensed God nudging me to plant a church and trust Him. And you heard on the video, it's true. God whispered to me and said, let's partner together. He's the major partner, I'm the minor partner. And we'll build a church. And you know what I said? Hineni. I'm all in. I began to ask the question, then where? And after prayer and searching, and we looked Tallahassee, North Florida, Monticello, we came back to Sarasota, and we decided to start a church in Sarasota. What kind of church? Well, if you've been around a long time, it was a church built on 3 C's. Casual dress, contemporary music, Christ-centered teaching. A church that reaches out to young families. Why not a church that reaches senior citizens? Because we would have no kids. Here's what's amazing. We get kids, we get them all. Because you brought your grandkids here today. Some of you did. We reach them and we get you. A church that focuses on children. A church that's sensitive to visitors. That does not lay guilt on people. A church that really doesn't look like a church. What would we call it? Suncoast Community Church. The first service, there were 47 people in attendance. I mean, can you imagine? It's been a whitewater rafting ever since. It's not been just a piece of cake. Great times, life is good, but also we had to navigate some of the boulders in the stream. So I want to ask some questions today. Not many of you are here the first service, and but there was 47. So if you're here the first service, or let's say the first service in the first 3 months, we were at McIntosh Middle, then Fruitville, then Sarasota Middle. Make sure you get your church and your schools right. But at McIntosh Middle, was there 3 months. If you were there during the first 3 months, stand, please. That's right. That's all of you. And yeah, I'm loving every one of you guys. Remain standing. I want you guys to go get a t-shirt afterwards. You deserve a wardrobe. Now, if you came anytime, keep standing. If you came during McIntosh Middle School, stand. Fruitville Elementary School, would you stand if you came during those days? There's more. Sarasota Middle, if you came between anytime in Sarasota Middle School, would you stand? Oh, we're getting a few more. Now, how about if you're at Suncoast from 2007 to 2015, would you stand? Now, the rest of you stand just to make them feel good. Everybody stand, okay? I want everybody to stand just for a second. Everybody stand, kind of do a little stretching, because now we're going to be here for another 15 minutes. All right, you can sit down. See what I want. Amazing things begin to happen in my spiritual life when I begin to release my security to Him. And 2 things I was being taught. I was taught to get to a place of surrender, I had to let go of some things that I held on to too tightly. And some of the things was part of my heritage, some of the structure that was chafing me. I had to be willing to say, I got to let that go. My hands needed to be empty so that God could put in them what he wanted for me. Hineni. I'm available. God, you give me whatever. Teach me the authentic things I need to hear. That's the first thing. The second thing, I was beginning to grasp this new thing about a community. At first, in our community, do you know there was no hired staff in the beginning? I started the church and, I didn't take a salary. I was a volunteer for the first 2 years. But I want to mention those who made an investment. I mean, Becky Bauckham, children's director, she's in the back. You'll see her in a few minutes. But it's nice to be married to a person who does children's ministry if you're a pastor. You know what else is convenient? If you're going to start a church, have children who are musicians. And we made all our kids take a dozen years of piano. So I automatically had a band, and I had children, and then I preached. You could see it was a great thing working. But there were so many people instrumental. I mean, I saw Melissa Shepard here. You're here so early. Bill and Stephanie Beecham were here in the first service. Glenn and Sarah Sunderhouse, Roger and Jeanette Blitz, Mitch Burke, Stephen Sue Marcinko. There's so many others. I want to mention Greg Reiner. Greg has been he's sitting over here. Greg's been on the board of directors of Suncoast for 25 years. He and Kevin Hawk, who's watching online today, and the other director was Mike Ross, who passed away a little over a year ago. But just good friends that have been along beside me to support and encourage me through these years. I want to say publicly thank you for everything that you guys have done. And let me give kudos to Susan Hickman. I don't know if Susan's in here. You're in here, Susan? She's not. She's out there working. Susan's worked for me for 23 years and ongoing. She's the queen of everything. I could not accomplish what I accomplished without Susan. If you see her, she's handling the backpacks. People say, just give a hand for Susan. She does a great job. And then Sherry Connor. Sherry worked for me for 20 years. She no longer works for me, but she needs to be mentioned. And don't give her a hand because she didn't work here anymore. She didn't deserve that. But Sherry's here today because she wants to be here, not because she's paid. I said, well, I only came for the donut holes when they quit that. But I do want to give kudos to Sherry. She was wonderful and worked for me for a long time. Kevin Kaiser's been here 20 years. Ricardo, 14 years. Lisa Zimmerman, 14 years. Brett Watson since 2016. Troy, a couple years. Thank you guys for being so much a part of what we do. Anita Cupo, James Harper. They do our youth ministry. Anybody that does that needs to be given all the T-shirts they need. I mean, they're wonderful. And then the production, Caleb Ralston, Steve Shank, Hope Stutzman, Kyle Curzo. I mean, Frank Pompo, administration. Anybody know Henley? Yeah, we know Henley. I mean, he does facilities, along with Eric DeYoung and Jonathan Bauckham. I mean, that's just a few. Let me mention some of the guys on stage. Chase, Hope, Lee, Stephen, Marissa, Evan, Laura, Rick, Stacy, Ryan, and others. If I missed you, forgive me. But we couldn't do it without the worship team as well. And the children's team, there's about 14 on the children's team that work here every week. And I want to say kudos and thank you to them. The cafe, Bob Montgomery, the hospitality team, facilities, there's a lot of part-time staff. So let me do another stand-up. If you've ever volunteered for anything here at Suncoast, even if it's one time, would you please stand? Now, those people deserve a hand. Give them a hand. And those of you who are not standing, get with it. So next time we want you to be standing. So in the fall of 2002, after 5 years of pastoring this new church, I took a 40-day sabbatical and searched for God's leading. Folks, I feel like if we're going to do this, it's going to be a God thing or it's not going to be gone at all. And I really went into the valley, went by myself to every place I'd ever lived, every place I'd pastored, went to the forest of North Carolina and just spent hours with God. And when I came back, I had this one message. The big rock I was carrying with me was it's time to buy land. It's time. Did we have any money? No, we didn't have any money, but it's time to, if you're going to buy land, it's nice to have money. But I began to think about it and pray about it, and people began to give, and before long we had $25,000 in an account, which leads me to point number 2. We expect great things to happen, they usually do. I expected to buy land. I expected to find it and buy it close to the interstate, at least 40 acres. And I met with Arlen Hawkins, who owned this land. It was 121 acres. And he was an old farmer, rancher from Florida, multi-generation. And I met in his house, sat on his kitchen, on his sofa in his living room, and we negotiated over 121 acres of land, like two guys at a yard sale haggling over the price of a bicycle. We just went back and forth, and finally I said, well, how about some contribution? How about this? And finally we hit it, 121 acres, $3.8 million, 6 months to close. I gave him all the money we had, $25,000. And I walked out of there and I said, well, that was good. And people said, you have it under contract. That's great. How are you going to do that? What bank is going to loan you $3.8 million? You just are a young church. You have no resources. You gave them all your money. You know what I believe? Step number 3, the river doesn't part until our foot hits the water's edge. When you whitewater raft, there are ups and downs, highs and lows. You're hanging on for dear life. And there's a big rock, you see it coming, you try to navigate it the best you can. And is pastoring easy? No, it is not easy. But neither is parenting. As a matter of fact, I look at your lives, does anybody here just have a life that's so easy there's never any obstacles at all? No. We all negotiate or navigate the stones in our life. But as I look back on my life, I notice I did not take the path of least resistance. I take the white water. Why is that? I mean, when Becky and I went to vacation, I went in the raft with Stacy and Jeff and their kids. And where was my wife? She didn't get in the raft. She said, I'm not getting in that thing. I'll find something to do, and she didn't do it. But she stood there, and she supported us, and she waited till we got back. And I will let you know, there is the necessity of support in people's lives. We cannot do it by ourselves. And I could not be where I am today without the support of my wife for 47 years. She's a wonderful person. I want to give shout out to her. She's sitting back there. Give her some applause as well. We've done so many good things, negotiated so many rocks. We bought the land, we found a way, the bank financed it. We figured out a way to sell off 40 acres and make it work. But as I began to see the white water of my life, I did not have a life plan laid out for me when I was a teenager. Did you? You know, my kids graduated from high school. I knew they were going to college. They at least had that. What they do beyond that, I don't know. You know, for me, I was like, I didn't have that plan, but I decided I was going to go to college. And then when I finished that, I said, well, I'm too young. I'm going to go into grad school for 4 years. Then I became a pastor at 25 years old. I started following God's calling in my heart because that's what I felt like doing. And I went back to school at Florida State for 7 years, and no one made me. I made myself. Why? Because I'm addicted to stupid. I mean, some days you go, why'd you do that? I don't know, but I felt it was the right thing to do. And then at some point in my life, I left the church of my birth. I was broken, burned out. I had to let go of that. But months later, because of that, inspired by God, with this emptiness, God begins to fill again something better. Now I stand today and say, I'm so grateful for every day of my life, every rock that I bumped into, every rock that I've navigated. And sometimes, you know, you get flipped into the stream. I've had that too. But because of all that, Suncoast Community Church was born. Almost everything I've gotten myself into is not the path of least resistance. Why? It's the challenge of life. You feel it. You do it. It's not my story, it is, but I mean, your story is very similar to mine. You've made decisions, you've accepted things, you've taken up challenges, you've done things that others have not done. But let me tell you the secret in my life. It's hineni. It's not just me saying, God, here I am, send me. But it's me saying hineni. And then hearing him say that same back to me, I am with you. I'll breathe life into you. Give your life away and I'll replace it many times. That's an anchor. That's putting your foot in the water and see God do great things. See, I'm ready to do great things when I find my center in him. God used me. My affirmation, though, when he says it back, November 30th, 2003, we had our first service on the property. We counted off about where we were from that big tree. We set a stage about where I'm standing here. We had chairs about where you're sitting. November 30th, 2003, you were in a cow pasture if you were back then. And we sat there, it was cool that morning. It was crisp, and we had hot chocolate and coffee, and had this big, stage built up, and it was a clear morning. As we looked out over the crowd, the sky was clear earlier, and just before I got up to speak, the band had already played the music. One of the pastors said, "Hey, Pat, look up." And I looked up, and in the blue sky with no clouds, there was 2 streams of clouds exactly making a cross in the sky. I said, "Folks, look up." Some people started weeping. I'm not a mystical guy, but I went, got my attention. But it simply was an affirmation. You're on the right track. Possess the land. Be who God wants you to be, and he'll be honored. So many big rocks in my life. I mean, there's zoning issues, there's school issues, there's senior living facility things. I can tell you, I have not been out of the stream yet, nor do I plan on being out in a while. So when you see me and see, you're a little battered up today, yeah, just normal life, just like you. But I want to live it connected to him. And I want you to live yours connected to him too. So it's not my birthday. It's this organization, this community's birthday, but celebrate it in. Because I want you to know you're all part of our community. Can I pray with you? Father, in moments like this, you challenge us to be more than we are. In a moment just like this, the presence of Christ is here. And my prayer for my friends is not only would they be saying, "Hineni, God, I'm open," but they'd hear the voice of God saying, "I am with you. I am always with you." Father, may that be so, we pray. In the name of Christ, amen. Today, I would be remiss if I did not bring some people on stage to say thank you. And the people I want to bring on stage, I want you to know who they are. The first one is my wife, Becky. So they're coming out this time, and they're making their way out. There's my grandkids. Switch the order is fine. But if some of you, come up here just a minute, Becky. Some of you do not know, this is my wife, Becky. We've been married for 47 years. You got anything you want to say?
You want me to say something?
Scary, yeah.
I'm not the mic person, but I do want to just say how much we love and appreciate each one of you and think of you as our extended family. And over the years, you've meant so much to us in so many different ways.
Thank you. So if you don't know this, my daughter Laura and her husband Ricardo and their daughters, Leighton and London. And then, of course, Becky. And then there's Stacy, my second daughter, with her 3 children. Colin, who's almost 17. Peyton, who's 14. And Brady, who's 12. And, of course, you heard from Ryan and Rita. Ryan's our youngest. But this is my family. We're fortunate to have all our kids in town, all our kids in part of our community. But if I could add people to the stage, you know who I'd add? I'd bring Susan Hickman up here and Kevin, and I'd bring all the band members up here and the facilities people and the production people. I'd have them all up here. Before long, I'd have all the volunteers up here too. And this stage would be, I'd have all of you up here. So let me say this very clearly. Welcome to the dysfunctional Balcom family. And I'm so glad that you're my friends. And if you haven't seen my mother today, she's here. She'll be 97 this month. She's been in the Grand Hall all morning. But my brother was here, a lot of family members. But most importantly, the Spirit of Christ is here. And together, we will make a difference in the world for him. God bless you. He loves you today. So do I. Thanks for coming.